All right, what's up, everybody? It's JT Norcross back again for another video. I got Pappy Shane Norcross next to me. He's been in ministry for like 600 years, and so y'all are in for a treat. Remind the crowd once again, how long have you been in ministry?
About 25 years.
So about 25 years here. I'm going on close to 7 years in ministry. So you got a combination of over 30 years sitting before you today. So we're excited to get into this conversation. Before we jump into this, don't forget to like this video down below. You can go on down and subscribe as well to the channel. Anything you do as far as that is concerned really helps us out. It allows us to continue to do what we're doing, and it lets us know that you're interested in what's going on. Leave any comments that you want to in regards to our conversation today. So anyways, today we have something a little different. We're going to talk to you about things not to do if you're a minister. And so this should be fun. So I'm not going to lead up to it anymore. We're just going to jump right into it. So what do you think about that?
I think one of the biggest mistakes most ministers make is that they take questions from the congregation or questions from a person personal, when in reality it could be beneficial. And so I would say one of the first things not to do is don't take everything personal. Because I would say out of 100% of the time, probably less than 1% of the things that are said to you were meant as a personal attack. So that means about 99.9% of the time, it's just a question, or it's just kind of encouraging you to take a look at whatever it is that you're planning, whatever it is you're doing, to evaluate, is it lining up scripturally? Is there pitfalls in this idea that I have that I need to maybe look at, maybe take a different approach on? So look at those as opportunities to better an idea or to avoid a potential problem than as a personal attack on yourself. That's one of the big things that I see happens most of the time.
Absolutely. And I've experienced that in my own ministry.
Sure.
So that's an interesting idea.
You see a lot during business meetings or something like that. People have questions. They just want to know. And so the more information you can put out about an idea, the more you can lay it out, the better. But embrace the questions. Embrace the conversation, because it's only going to make a good idea better. And maybe help you avoid maybe what could be a bad idea. So
right on.
Just something to think about.
That's cool. So I'm in the process of transitioning. Right now I'm currently at First Baptist Church in Bremont, Texas, a small town. And I'm moving to a church in Wortham, Texas. It's about the same size, set up, similar facilities. And what I'm walking into now is I'm going to be introducing some new music as a music minister, and I'm walking into a youth group that's already pretty well established on the youth ministry side of things. And so to the musical side of things, one thing I noticed is and being a part of several churches that have introduced new music, especially contemporary music, if you will. I've noticed that people tend to rush things.
Yeah.
So if you're a music guy and you're new at this, or if you're looking to incorporate some contemporary music, don't rush things. That's something I would say.
Absolutely. Be patient. Take your time. If you rush things, you start presenting new music. People don't know the music. If they don't know the music, they get frustrated. They stop singing. You just shut them down. And so that worship service that you've tried to create a worshipful environment, these people shut down and they don't worship. And so you defeated your purpose for being there. I would recommend a couple of things on that. Number one, be patient, just like you're saying. But number two, use other opportunities to introduce music. Let people hear the music a few times, and then start incorporating it into the service as they get to know the songs.
Absolutely.
And especially, when you're in a small rural area going into a very traditional church with a congregation that has a large senior adult population, you really need to be patient with that. There again, that's another one of those areas where people can become frustrated, and I don't know that that's the intent. Is that maybe they just need some time to learn to appreciate what you're offering,
Right.
and as far as new music goes. But I think you're absolutely right. I think you got to just be patient and don't rush things, and look for opportunities outside of the worship service to present new music and let them be introduced to it in those different settings.
Right. So I've been a part of about 4 churches where we've done that. This will be my 5th that I'm walking into, where we've begin to introduce new music. And what we're going for is kind of a blended service, which everyone has a different idea of what that is.
Right.
But I found, and here's some ideas. You had mentioned introducing that music in different ways. Special music is a great way to do that. Maybe you do some prelude kind of music, like before the services started. Play some of the music that you're planning on doing. I don't recommend 1,000 Foot Crutch for that, but play that similar style music. And then another thing is music guides. Don't get locked into what you consider to be good music. You know as well as I do that just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's not good music. And we need to know our context and know what will work well in our church. Personally, not a big fan of Southern gospel music, but you'll find in a lot of our services we incorporate some of that style of music as something a little different, a little more refreshing.
And I would say this: I've pastored churches for 25 years now, and I have been in one church that the style of music that we played was my preference. And I think you're onto something there, because our preferences play a role. We like to point our fingers outward and say, well, it's all about your preference, and so you're not giving this new music a chance. Preference works both directions. And so understanding the context of your situation helps you go a long way to creating a worship environment where everyone can worship in, and I think that becomes very important.
Absolutely. And then just one more quick idea. If you're introducing instruments that have not been in your church before, I highly recommend bringing that instrument in, letting it just sit there for a week or 2. Then maybe pick it up, play it a little bit during a service, and then let it sit for a while, and just slowly bring that instrument in. That's going to help with that backlash that we tend to get.
And there again, you can do like you were talking about before. Maybe you use that instrument in a special music. Maybe you do it in a prelude, an offertory type situation, and slowly introduce the new instrument into your worship service in the same way that you would the song.
Absolutely. All right, give me another not to do.
Not to do. All right, in your context, and there's other guys hopefully that'll watch this that'll be going through the same thing. You're going into a new church. All right, now you're gonna experience a couple of different scenarios here, probably many more than that, but just in this case, you're going from a situation from a small rural church into another small rural church. There's going to be similarities there, but there's also going to be differences. I think a big mistake that a lot of guys make is, well, this is the same, looks the same, so I can go in and just do everything I did here, and it's going to work perfectly. Guys, churches made this mistake back when Saddleback went big and everybody read Rick Warren's book. It's a great book. It's great ideas in there. You can't be Saddleback in a rural setting, per se. You got to take the principles used and then create the ministry in that location that best fits that ministry. In your case, there's similarities there. You know, you've got a similar sized church. You've got similar type of facilities and so forth, but the students, or your ones that you'll be shepherding, are going to be different, even though we're talking of not necessarily even a long distance apart. They're going to be similar in that they grew up in a rural area, but really at that point it ends. You know, they're going to be in a different place spiritually, and so you've got to go in, understand your context, and then do it. The other scenario there is that you're going from into a completely different context where there's not any similarities at all. And there again, don't get to the point where you think this is going to work, this one size fits all, because it doesn't work that way. I was in a setting when I did youth ministry 100 years ago, and pastor that had pastored the church previously called me, wanted me to come to the church that he was at that point, and he was talking about all the things that we were doing at the church that I was at, and wanted me to come and implement those things there. Well, it was such a different context, and the things that we did at this church did not work at this church. And so we had to figure it all out all over again. And so I would just say, go in, be patient, be prayerful, see the vision that the pastor, or if you are the pastor, see the vision, take your time, implement the things that work in that context. Now, don't rush in with this ideal model and think you're going to force the church to fit into that mold. Go in and see where the church is, and then create from that the direction you're going to go.
I would add to that. There was I worked with the guy Jeremy Walker. He's an awesome dude, smart guy. He's got a book out called Checklist Jesus. You should check that out. If you haven't bought that book yet, go online and buy that book, Checklist Jesus. But we had gone to a church camp one time with a youth group. There was a guy there by the name of Scott Venable. He was the lead speaker at camp. He's out of he planted a church in Chicago, and he was doing some really cool stuff with their children, with their youth, and we liked the idea. Jeremy and I kind of latched onto that, and we're like, we're gonna copy and paste this. We're gonna throw this into what we're doing in small town Ropesville, Texas, and it went over like a turd in the punch bowl. I mean, it was just bad. But eventually, Jeremy, being as smart as he is, came up with some ideas as to how we could take different aspects of that ministry that Scott was doing and start to incorporate those into what we already had going, and it really exploded. It took off. And so I would be leery of copying and pasting, kind of like you referenced to copying and pasting what Saddleback did.
Right.
Hey, use other people's ideas. There's nothing new under the sun. I think that's somewhere in the Bible, right? But make it your own and make it fit the people that you're ministering to.
Well, that's like you're saying. You know, there's the context that you're going into. There's an established youth group, and they've got some good things going on. And when you go into that, you're going to see what's really working well and some things that aren't working well. That's when you're able to go in and to tweak that. And like you say, then you start making it your own. You're putting your influence, your personality, your ideas into that, and it's not going and reinventing the wheel. It's taking that plain wheel and making it an all-terrain.
Sure.
You know, and so go in, see what works, see what doesn't work, and then spend your time and your energy on making what's good better, and what's not working something that's workable and that's feasible for your congregation.
Absolutely. All right, now I'm gonna address probably my I don't want to say hatred, because that's a harsh word, but my biggest pet peeve that I've experienced in ministry. Don't become a youth minister and think that you can just sit on your butt. That's something that we don't do. It's not, hear me when I say this, youth ministry is not about pizza parties and having a good time all the time. There's more to it than that. And I've heard countless pastors talk to me about the respect that they have for me, and not to glorify myself at all. It's about what God's done, but just the fact that I actually work. If you're a youth minister, get off your butt and do something. Be interactive in your community. Teach the Bible. It's not just about parties and games. You want to add something to that as a pastor?
Well, and you point that out as a youth minister. I would say that as a minister in any position that you're in, whether you're the senior pastor, music, education, administration, whatever it is, there's a lot of guys out there that think that, well, because I'm a pastor, I really don't have to, I don't have to put out this many hours, or I don't have to do all this work. That it's a cush job that I can just kind of relax in. You don't get gray hair relaxing. You need to be intimately involved in the lives of your people, and that means that's going to require work on your part. You're going to want to build relationships. There's long hours involved. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be willing to answer that phone call in the middle of the night. You got to be willing to answer that phone call on Christmas Eve, or at any time, and be on go and ready to go and to minister.
Yes.
What you got to realize is that laziness leads to people not hearing the gospel and being eternally separated from God that loves them. And so there's no room for laziness in ministry. The eternal soul of men and women and boys and girls are reliant on God's people being active every day, all the time, with the gospel. We, the ministers, have a huge task of equipping them and modeling before them what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is lazy pastors lead to lazy churches that will one day lock their doors, and we're hearing this all the time. Churches shutting down because they have no people.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's died off. That's how laziness.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no room for that. And as you called it, a pet peeve, it is a disgrace to everyone that has the title pastor or minister when you are lazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's a knock on us all. And so more so than that, what does that say about your God?
Mm-hmm.
We don't serve a lazy God.
That's right.
And so I would say when you feel that calling, when you hear God speak in your life, calls you into ministry, then you go all in, and it's you pour everything you got into it. There'll be time to rest when we get to heaven.
That's right.
And so give it your all.
I agree completely. All right, guys, I hate to cut it off here, but that's all the time that we have for today. We want to get this video up for you guys. So again, if you like having Shane on the show, then let us know down in the comments, and we'll bring him back on. I'm sure he's going to be back on for some fun stuff. Until next time, don't forget to subscribe, like this video for us, and just live a righteous life. You know what I'm saying? So until next time, rock on. Peace out. I love you guys.